Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Open Tabs podcast. I'm Joe.
Hey, everybody. He's Joe.
I'm Joe.
I'm Billy.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here today. We're so excited to talk to you. Obviously, you can tell, very excited with that. Hey. Anyway, welcome to the Open Tabs podcast. To this week, we have a very interesting topic. It seems like, I don't know, man, everybody is making $30 million a month on side hustles now.
Everybody but us.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Every time maybe it's my algorithm or something, but every time I'm on YouTube, somebody else has found a get rich quick scheme or they found some way to like supplement their income and have 16 incomes at one time. And I don't know, man. I don't know if this works for the average American. I don't know if the Gen Z and Gen Alpha are just more motivated. I'm not 100% sure here, but I have had a hard time trying to nail down a side hustle. Now, Billy, you have been the king of side hustles in my book.
Well,
tell me a little bit about your side hustle experience.
How do we define king? As in trying a lot? Maybe.
That's what I mean, yes.
As in making any money? The jester. the court, the town idiot. So I say right out of the gate, if you're one of our beloved watchers who are watching this all the way through, thank you. We love you. This is definitely not a video on how to. There's no expertise here. If anything, this is a curiosity and what has been tried and not worked.
It's a cry for help, really.
I don't know what kind of value that is to anybody, but for us, at least the two of us, we are brainstorming openly and for anyone who wants to tune in and listen, I guess.
Yep.
So, with that said, I will tell you that I started, well, how far back do you go? My first side hustle.
The lemonade stand.
Yeah, right. I was the little entrepreneur trying to make money. In middle school, I lived in a neighborhood that had 2 golf courses. And so I would go and find golf balls in the woods that were lost. And then I would go and rinse them off and I would sell them back to the golfers for $1 a ball. But anything I could do, I made flyers and I put them in the mailboxes and I said teen yard work. I was barely 13, so I was technically a teen.
Mm-hmm.
But when the few that actually, hit me up, I'm sure when I showed up, they're like, that's not a teen. He looks like he's 7. But I got some jobs that way. I got some dog sitting jobs that way in the neighborhood. Anything I could do to make a buck. In college, well, hey, even in middle school for that matter, I sold snacks on the bus and at school. I got in trouble all the time, but as a cost of doing business, I would take bags of candy bars and lollipops, and even cans of Coke and wrap them in tinfoil to try to keep them cool and sell them at school and on the school bus. I sold candy bars at church. I sold candy bars in front of the grocery store, and I would lie to people and say it's for my college fund. And it wasn't, but anything to make a buck. In college, that was kind of the first what I thought was a real venture, because I actually started a sole proprietorship called Malachi Silver, and I was selling sterling silver rings and sterling silver toe rings on eBay. And the reason I picked that is because there's a high markup on silver jewelry, and because it's small and lightweight to ship. And even at college, I had a black velvet tray filled with rings and toe rings, and I would sit in the very busy coffee shop in California on the campus, and I would just have it sitting on the table as I'm doing my homework. And the girls would come up and say, "What's that?" And they'd buy them, So, yeah. Not making a fortune, but a little bit here and there. So bringing it up more recently, I think the one that has really stuck that we've talked about is Uber and Lyft. So Joe, you have driven for Uber and or Lyft.
Lyft, yes.
Lyft, was it Lyft? Okay, so what was your experience like with that?
Well, I think I've mentioned this before. Interestingly, I was like an early adopter to Lyft back when I lived in California. And it was not a good experience when I lived in California because it was really early on. The taxi drivers hated it. And you never got rides. People could cancel on you and there was no penalty. You'd be driving around trying to figure out the apps, like GPS didn't work that well, all kinds of just different weird things, you know? Somebody would call a Lyft, be sitting in a restaurant and just would wait in the restaurant for 2 hours while you're sitting there trying to figure out where they are.
Mm.
So in the early days, Lyft was much more difficult, I think. When I moved to Georgia, and after I lived in Georgia, I would say this is probably around 2018 or so. I had an interesting conundrum. One, the software company that I worked for, is actually building out a mobile mapping solution, a mobile drive solution for a different industry. And I wanted to get some hands on, like, what is it like to drive with an app and follow and do this. The other thing is we needed Christmas money that year for Christmas presents, so it just worked out. So I drove for Lyft in a college town, which was not great. I'll be honest; it was a little unnerving. Lots of weird things in my car happening. Oddly, didn't love it. I drove downtown a little bit as well. My car by that point was too old to drive to the airport, so I couldn't use it for airport runs at that point. And I made okay money. I didn't make great tips, but I would say I made okay money. I made okay tips. Um, but I think it wasn't quite yet. This was, again, I think 2000, maybe 18, maybe even 2017. It wasn't quite like the income replacer that I think some people experienced. It didn't quite have the same income benefit. And I think that was around the time when you started messing with it too, and you had some different experiences, different opportunities and things like that you did, right?
Yeah, it was actually the same year, 2018. I was between jobs. I had my camper van, but not any sort of daily driver. And so I did Lyft. I did it kind of full time for 3 months between jobs. But I got a rental car through their partnership with Hertz. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, the promotion was if you drive 90 rides in a 7-day period, we will comp your rental car. Let me tell you,
Wow.
90 rides is very difficult to do. I only did it once in that whole 3-month period. And then,
Wow.
if you didn't hit 90, if it was like 85 to 89 rides, they were only giving you 50% comp. I mean, you had to hit that target of 90 to get it
Hmm.
free. And if not, it was 250 a week out of pocket, something like that, which I could, I had a rental car for my own use. But I had to hustle. I mean, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and I was barely breaking even. But it was good for me because I was going through a hard time, and it got me out of the house. I was just kind of stuck on the couch at my buddy's house, and it got me out and about talking to people, and that ended up being more valuable than the actual side hustle itself. And they have come a long way since then. But I picked it back up a couple years ago with my 2008 Toyota Highlander, which has a third row, had a third row. I don't have it anymore. And it was great. I was just doing it on the side, but I was only doing Lyft XL and Uber XL, which pays more for having the third row. And I just found the sweet spot, which for me was mostly in the mornings. I'd go like 4:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. For like the morning rush, and people are just going to work. And then I would do Friday night or Saturday, and it was, for the most part, it was back to back to back to back. And that's the time that you can make money, is when you're not sitting there waiting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
hours can go by without any pause. You have to actually turn the app off to go take a break. Like, man, I've been driving for 4 hours back to back to back. That's what you want, though.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that. That's changed. I haven't seen that in well over a year. Partly because it's saturated with so many drivers, and the other part is because in our Atlanta market, we have Waymo. We have Waymo. Approximately 3,800 Waymo cars are in the city of Atlanta. And so those have taken the lion's share of the business. Now,
That's crazy.
those don't have a third row. Lyft does have an autonomous vehicle that all of theirs do have a third row. They're made out of the Toyota Sienna minivan. But it's just not the way it was before. And so I still try to do it here and there, but it's not as good. Now, I got aged out at the end of 2024, and my Highlander, even though it was in great shape, became too old to drive for Uber and Lyft. It was 15 years old. It was paid off, in good shape. I took good care of it, and had to decide, do I want to keep it and stop doing Uber, or do I want to trade it in and get something newer? And that's what I ended up doing. And that's probably ended up being a mistake, because I bought a new car with a car note. I had no car note before. Now I have a very expensive car note, and not anticipating that this whole thing would dry up essentially for me, because moving it back into the city and having Waymo take all the business. So it's a mess for me right now financially because of that. But it was good for a while, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like it could almost, it literally, there was a point in time where it was a good actual second income.
Yep.
But once, once the world kind of shifted, autonomous cars came in play, you're downtown where they all exist. And now all of a sudden, you know, it's not what it once was. And I think, it's interesting, but I think that's kind of what happens with this gig economy and this side hustle kind of economy is, there's a heyday part of it, and then it kind of dwindles or it loses its steam, or it's not. I mean, think about how many of those apps used to exist versus what exists now. So Sidecar, all these other ones that used to exist don't exist anymore. And I've been looking at these gig economy options lately, and I guess this is a good thing, but like I recently just tried to sign up for the two higher paid gig economy options, which right now are Spark and Amazon Flex. And in my area, there's no room. You cannot even get on the Walmart deliveries. There's a waiting period. And Amazon Flex told me it's a 6-month wait,
Jeez.
just to get in my area, just to get a route. Now I could try to go get a route somewhere else, maybe that's a little more high volume, but you're still going to be waiting a significant period of time to
Yeah.
get that done. So, with that in mind, there's all these things out there that people are saying, government contracts. Well, I asked a friend about that, and he said, you know, he's seen some people have a moderate amount of success with government contracts, but really a government contract solution is years of investment and time and energy to try and get to your very first government contract award.
Yeah.
There's so a lot of these things, they either take a lot of capital to start, or they take time to build, just like any other small business would over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And in Uber and Lyft, it does have a lot going forward, that you can have cash in hand at the end of every ride, instantly in your account and that type of thing. But because of the oversaturation of drivers, the company takes advantage of that. And so the amount of money that is paid to the driver has gone down, down, down over the years. When I started off in 2018, Lyft was taking like 18 or 20% of the gross fare. Now Uber is taking just over 50% of the gross fare.
Wow.
So, and they justify it this way and that way and whatnot. But the drivers are getting paid less and less, and the drivers are willing to accept less because they need the money and they're desperate, and there's an oversaturation and supply and demand. And so it's not the way it once was. Even a year and a half ago, there would be a Friday night, and it would be normal to have these areas on the map where there would be surge areas where Uber would pay you so many dollars extra because they have a high demand and they don't have enough drivers, and they want you to go to that area. Now it's just like, meh, even on a Friday night, I can sit in Atlanta and just sit there for 30 minutes with the app turned on, not get a ding as I'm watching the Waymos drive by. Zoom, 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 zoom. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's a little
You,
disheartening, especially the folks who do it full time.
you know, it's interesting. I can try and get an Uber for 5 minutes where I live, and it may be 10 or 15 minutes before I can actually get an Uber to come get me at any given
Mm,
time during the day. Obviously, being in a more rural area, just to do, a 5 minute, 6 minute drive from the rental car company to my home is usually at minimum a 10-minute wait.
yeah.
So now you've got me thinking maybe I need to get my Uber chops back out and vacuum out my little Honda Fit and see if I can get my Honda Fit approved to go drive people around and see if I get any money that way.
Yeah,
Be
I mean,
interesting to see if it's
it's worth a
feasible.
shot. One thing that changed in favor of Uber, and we can see this because when the change happened, they went from the red to the black. I mean, with profit as a company from that quarter forward, is they changed the rate from having a static rate, which Lyft still does in most markets, but Uber stopped. So they used to have a static rate based on the region, and I mean, it'd even be different sections of a metro area. But even so, based in the region, it would be this much money per minute and this much money per mile. And you could
Mm,
calculate it. You could calculate it, and that was the rate for everybody every time. And then they changed it. And now, and there's YouTube videos where people have tested this. They brought 10 or 12 Uber drivers in the same room, and they all lay their cell phones out on the same table, and they all turn the app on, and then you start to see the rides dinging on the phones at different prices, at different rates. So they no longer have a static rate. It's based
interesting.
on an algorithm of all sorts of stuff. But you and I could be sitting side by side with the same kind of car in the same location, and I could be offered the same ride. We could be offered the same ride at the same time, and I could be offered it for a higher rate than you.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, that's all in favor of the company. They were profitable from that point forward because they can do shady stuff. Now, Turo, Turo, Turo. Turo is like the Airbnb for cars. A lot of people have never heard of Turo.
I've
During the
used it.
pandemic, have you? Yeah, okay, you've used it. During the pandemic, it became a real popular side hustle. Side hustle because if you're now working from home because of COVID, you might have a car or two that's not needed, and you could rent it out. Just like you rent out your spare bedroom, you could rent out your spare car. And um, and people, just like with Airbnb, have made really strong side hustles into, even full-time careers with this. And so I did a bunch of research, and I actually bought a car just for Turo last year. I did the research in the Atlanta market, and the most profitable car was a car called a Ford Fiesta, which I had
Hmm.
never even heard of, but that's the car. I bought it from I call it a gravel dealer
Hmm.
because it's
Hmm.
like the little corner, car sales guy on a gravel lot. But I bought this little Ford Fiesta and decided it's just for Turo. This was the most profitable in the Atlanta market, this make and model. And so I'm like, I'm going to go find that make and model. I found it and I bought it and I put it on Turo. And guess what, Joe? I made $10,000 the first month.
You did.
No,
Oh,
that's the thing. All these folks on YouTube, they are whatever these side hustles are. They're like, this is the secret of success. This is how I made this much money the first month. And um, we are perhaps here to tell you that that might be true for some, but it's not true for most.
right.
And for me, that was the case as well. So I bought this car with low mileage and I took it to mechanic and had it looked over and everything else. And then I put it on Turo and I had my very first customer come and pick it up. And only 2 hours later, they called me stuck on the side of the road, broken down. Ah,
No.
some weird thing with the brakes. And I thought the guy could be messing with me because he's like, yeah, I'm going to have it towed to my buddy. My buddy has a tire shop and brake shop and all this stuff. And I thought they were, hosing me, and I so I ended up spending all this money to the guy's buddy to fix it. And I didn't even think that there was anything wrong with it. And then I got it back, and then I rented it to my second customer. And that guy, 2 hours into it, called me, same story, broken down on the side of the road. And I said, I'm out.
Wow.
And so I turned around and I sold it to somebody else for $1,000 less than I had bought it, as not including the towing and the mechanic stuff and all of that. And so it turned out to be a bust.
Yeah,
that
sucks.
Yep. So again, it looked great on paper. I did the research. I picked the car that's the most profitable, but you don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a used car, that if it's going to be reliable or not. And so it really didn't even wind up getting off the ground. It was going to be like $2,000 to do all this stuff with the brakes, and I just was like, I'm done. I'm out.
Wow, that's crazy. It's interesting. All of these things that have like that promise of, oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. You just never know. And also, too, I just actually recently used Turo for a rental in Southern California. And when you're using this kind of thing, you cannot expect that the car is going to be the same kind of car that you would get from Enterprise or Hertz or whatever. And I think some people don't think that. They're like, oh, this is just a cheaper way to rent a new car. The car we got in California, it was worse for wear, but it ran. It didn't run exceptionally well, but it ran. The check engine light came on at one point. It was old. But at the end of the day, I had a minivan in Southern California that I paid $600 for. And this is actually kind of cool. They actually included a toll pass, and they didn't charge me for tolls. I don't know why. That's ridiculous, but they didn't charge me for tolls. They didn't charge me for cleaning. And it was a car that actually took this thing called flex fuel, which is like a high ethanol version of fuel. And so the fuel cost was comparable to what you would pay here in Georgia for fuel during, California spring and summertime when you had a lot of fuel. So I think there's definitely opportunities that maybe work, but also too, I think it depends on, well, what's the customer like? If the customer is expecting to have a newer late model vehicle, well, come on, man. If you're going to expect to have a car that doesn't have issues, go rent a car from Hertz or Enterprise.
Exactly.
You're not trying to save money by renting a car for $10 a day or $20 a day or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I have thought about it, and we actually do have an extra car right now. It's older. I don't even know if I could make money on it, honestly. And I don't know if it would be more advantageous just to sell as it is right now. It's paid off. Just get it out of here. Take that money, maybe invest it in some other option, right? I've tried the outdoorsy side hustle, and you talk about liability. Wait until somebody like rips the screen out of your screen door in a $35,000 RV, or breaks something, or backs into a gas station post, because we have a motorhome, so let people drive it. Those are it's like, and outdoorsy will
There's so
help
many
you.
ways for them to damage it more than a regular car.
They can break
even
your
if it's
house
because
and
they
your car
don't know
time.
about it. They don't necessarily even know how to take care of it.
So we had some experiences where it was like, oh, I think I rented my RV out 2 or 3 times, and then I could never get any. But we have a newer RV that's much bigger. I can't get anybody to rent that one because it's too big. It's too daunting. Nobody wants to rent something that large. And so, and I see all the time on my little forums for outdoorsy and stuff like that, where, people will get their camper back and it'll be completely destroyed, like run into
Sure.
something and this, that, and the other thing, and they're not getting any money out of it after that. So I think there's just, I think every side hustle is a yellow light, man. You got to proceed with caution,
Yeah.
and you got to be willing to lose whatever you've got into it. I think because that could very well be the thing that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, Turo has the horror stories, from the honest YouTubers, and they say it's not if but when, and some of them end up making more money than they would have when they're able to charge these extra fees and collect. But they had the one guy, for example, his car wasn't returned, and the guy disappeared, and it took him a while to find out. He was in another state, and he got his car back, and it was trashed. There were syringes in it. There was stains in it, like the windows had been broken out. The whole thing was trashed. And he ended up making more money than the car was even worth by all these extra fees that he was able to charge. But he said it's like, if you're not ready to chase those things down, don't even bother with it. A lot of people with Turo install GPS trackers because if your car doesn't get returned, now what? You're going to have to find it. You got to go get it. You might have to fly across the country and go get it and drive it home. So it's definitely not like a passive income the way that some resources online have made it look like.
Yeah.
Here's one that I have been playing with lately, and this one is called ACX. So ACX is a website that does matches authors of books with voice actors to record audiobooks.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so this came up just recently because I bought this fancy microphone for the podcast, and I thought, gee, how could I use this? And so, hey, it doesn't cost anything. I've, in the course of 2 months, I've auditioned for 21 projects, and an audition just looks like finding a book that I think I might be able to do a good job doing the voice acting for. And they provide a script, and I record the script and I submit it with a little cover letter. And if they like it, then they hire me. Nobody's hired me. Why not? Again, I found out that there is a huge amount of competition. I've had 3 projects that came back as I was kind of a finalist, I guess you could say. One of them in particular was an author who was really helpful and kind. He ended up picking somebody else, but I was in the final 3. And he said in 5 days he had 130 auditions.
Whoa.
For his one book. And so just a ton of competition. And so this has not come to fruition yet. Now, here's the thing. Even though for ACX it hasn't cost anything, like I don't have to pay anything to audition, there are other costs associated. So first of all, I have to have a decent microphone. I have to have it, and I already did.
Right.
But somebody else, you're not going to get any kind of you're not going to get hired if you don't have a good quality microphone and a good place to record the audio. I had to spend quite a bit of time learning some basics on how to master the audio, because when they hire you, most of the time they're hiring you at a rate called per finished hour. Per finished hour means you, the voice, are not just recording your voice, you are mastering it. So you're editing it, you're editing out any mouth noises, any click of the AC, any background, whatever. You're mastering all of it to be completely finished and ready to go. So one finished hour might take you 5 to 8 actual hours by the time you're said and done to get it recorded. And so you've got all that time that you've got to do, and it's oversaturated, and it's your time as well. So out of 21 auditions and learning all this stuff, 0 return so far.
That's a lot like video development. I've done a lot of video production, training video production, try to do that on the side, conversions of webinars, all those kinds of things. At the end of the day, there is a rule, and that is for every finished hour, or I'm sorry, for every finished minute of produced video, you are looking at 1 full hour of time. And for someone, and that is if you're just bare bones video, maybe doing a little bit of credits here, credits there. If you are adding animation to that,
Mm-hmm.
you got to add another hour. If you are adding, or two, if you're adding voiceover work, you have another hour. So every element you add to that video, that's another hour for every finished minute. So, you know, a 5-minute explainer video that has a voiceover and has a script and has animations and has screenshots or whatever it is, well, that's a culmination of possibly 25 or 30 hours of work
Mm.
that has been put into putting that video together at a high level. A more experienced editor may be able to do that at a faster rate. But at the end of the day, it's a very expensive piece. And so if you have
Mm.
a 5-minute video and you charge $500 for it, well, you didn't make $100 a minute. You made maybe $20 an hour making that
Mm-hmm.
video because of the time it takes to get it put together.
Yeah,
So,
and this stuff they don't talk about when
right.
a lot of times when you're like, oh, these are side hustle ideas, and
Mhm.
especially when you're newer, all the stuff is going to take even longer because you're newer.
Now, a lot of folks, there's that age old adage, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So a lot of folks are turning things that they really like to do into side incomes. And there's really two schools of thought on that. If I get paid for what I'm passionate about, I'm no longer passionate about it because it just becomes work. But then there's the
Mm.
other folks who say, I love doing it. So it doesn't feel like work to me at all. So tell me, Billy, anything that you love to do that you feel like could be something you could turn into an income?
That's a good question. There have been a couple recently. One is, and this has kind of come and gone, but a couple of years ago, I got into, and I have this pulled up to share as well. I got into something kind of on accident, which is making candles. So
How do
here's
you get
how
into candle making on accident?
that's a great question. Here's how it happened. I was on Amazon, as I often am, and I found a kit, how to make candles, everything included type of thing. And
Uh-huh.
I bought it without thinking twice. Some looked like something fun to try. And here I am in the kitchen, and it was like $25-$30 for everything. And it gave these little melting pots, and it provided the wax and the colors, and uh, maybe 3 little containers to make, and the oils and everything you need in the instructions to make 3 or 4 little candles. And um, and this is one of 1,000 different, art projects that I have done. I found something online and ordered it and did it, and it was fun, and that was that. But I really had fun with this one. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
was surprised at how much fun. It didn't feel like art as much as a science project, because I had to, melt the wax, and I had to measure. Like, you can see here, this is like a candy thermometer. I had to wait until it was a certain temperature, and then pour it, and then the oil and the color and the scent and all of this stuff. And it was just so fun. And then when I was done, I didn't even burn the candles because I don't like candles. I like incense. I'm an incense guy. I don't like the candles. But I gave them the 3 or 4 that came in the kit. I gave them away, and I remember the little reaction of, "Ooh, you made this? Wow, I can have it? That's amazing." And I was like, "That was really fun." I bought another of the same kit, and I did it
Uh-huh.
again. And I was like, "Man, this is so fun. I don't want the candle. I just enjoy the process. It's
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
fun." So, I made this kind of little workshop in, my room, and so you can see on the right side, this is the wax melter, the scale. I had all the little drawers and my oils. There's another to the left. There's another whole section. This is just half of like a little workshop. But all of the oils and the containers. and I never sold a single one. I just poured them and I gave them away because it was so fun. Um, and you can see I started getting into, I started making a lot,
Mhm.
dozens and dozens at a time. I was buying the equipment, the supplies wholesale from a place in Atlanta, and I was spending hundreds of dollars per order that I would go pick up. And in the course of 12 months, I actually added it up later. I spent a little over $9,000 in supplies making candles.
Wow.
You can see all these different types that I made. I would buy. It's kind of hard. You can see some of these. I would buy on Etsy. I'd buy old vintage beer cans from the 60s and
Mhm.
70s, and I would cut the top off and grind it so it wasn't jagged, nice and smooth. And I'd make those into candles, just all kind of different stuff. And I would just give them away. I would just give them away to my friends, and at the end of a year, I'd spend 9 grand. Now, people often asked me, hey, especially once I got the hang of it and I was doing, pretty good. They were like, hey, why don't you sell these? These are amazing. You've finally figured it out and all this stuff. And I didn't want to sell them for a couple of reasons. Number one, I wanted it to stay a hobby. I didn't want to turn it into a business. I was just
Mhm.
having fun and I loved
Mhm.
giving them away. The other thing is, probably more importantly, I found out quickly that the homemade candle market is saturated.
Oh, I'm
You
sure.
you have to there's so much competition, even just going to the local farmers market or on Etsy. Good luck. You're going to either make no money or, you're going to have crappy quality. Now, the candle that I was making, like this is the one I landed on that I made the most. These are half size mason jars. So think of
Mhm.
a mason jar there that's a half a mason jar. It's still a good heavy chunky candle, but that's a half a mason jar. This completely finished when I was done. My wholesale cost was right at $8.
Oh,
That's
wow.
and that's me buying wholesale because I was buying the best quality and doing, really a good job. So imagine how much I have to sell these
16.
little. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Now and
$16 just to call it.
and and it would have changed everything.
Yeah.
So after a year and realizing how expensive this little hobby was, I ended up stopping and I sold the supplies, the equipment, and I got out of it. And it was fun, but it could not have been a side hustle for me. Some people do it, but it's I wouldn't have been able to make any kind of decent money on it.
So, just to show you, that is the leather candle that you made for me.
Oh yeah,
I have that one,
you
and
still have that?
I have this is my this one actually just makes me happy and also a little hungry. This is my butterbeer candle,
Oh
Harry
wow.
Potter butterbeer candle. And I have a couple we have several of the ones that you made. I have my classic beer can one. That's in a can of Schlitz beer, which is awesome. So I loved your candle making. And I can see, so one of the things I get about you, Billy, is that you really like to get really good at something and use the best of what you can and make it the best it can possibly be. And
Mm,
so for you as a maker, that becomes a very difficult proposition as far as making it profitable, right?
yeah, that's true.
It can't be extremely profitable if you're gonna use the highest quality of everything. And I think that is another key piece of the puzzle to this. Like, if you are the kind of person who is a really a perfectionist who wants things to be like the best they can possibly be, there is a market for that, but it is a much lower volume market, and it
Yeah,
is a much more difficult market to
yeah.
to get into.
See,
But
even the tag that came with it, I
mhm.
spent so much time. It's hard to see here, but I bought these little kind of cardboard tags that say "handmade with love," and then I kind of like old school wax
I didn't
seals.
yeah, I never got one with a wax seal. That's pretty cool, but
Yeah,
yeah.
so I had a bunch of these little brass wax seals, and I would just sit there all night long, and I would melt the wax. This is like little wax, little tablets, little bits, and and then I'd press it just right. So every one of them, I think I have a couple in this next.
Okay,
Every one of
Billy,
them
I have a
was
new
like
idea for you.
super custom, like this.
Because you're so artistic, you need to learn how to do calligraphy.
I bought calligraphy stuff last year. I just haven't sat down and like
if you
spent the
learn how
time.
to do calligraphy,
Mm-hmm.
then it's no cost really at all. It's some paper and pens, and you can write calligraphy notes
Yeah.
and do envelopes and mail nice letters on behalf of people. I have friends that have done this, and it's actually pretty cool. Someone will say, hey, I want to write a love note to my wife and send it to her, or I want, a postcard from Denver or whatever. And they will hire somebody to write that out really beautifully and then pass it along. So there you go. I think that could be your possible passion project / side hustle is calligraphy. Do you still have your candle stamping stuff, or did you get all rid of all that too?
Yeah, no, I got the stamping stuff for sure.
Yeah, there you go. So you got your stamps. You could send out little invitations and things like that. So, one of the passion projects, one of the fun things we haven't done in a while that I think we may have to resurrect, Billy, is the strolling minstrel or the town troubadour. That's one of the ones that I've tried in the past and I've toyed with, is actually going out and just sitting on the side of the road and seeing if I can get milk money or lunch money or what you can get. Nowadays you've got Venmo and Cash App, and I'll tell you, and I'm going to actually share our family side hustle. And it came in really handy this weekend. So, one of the things we do is we have a lot of animals in our house. And so we actually have an animal interaction thing that we do called Kingdom Critters. And this week we went to a friend's blueberry farm in Loganville, Georgia, Tuckaway Blueberry Farms, which is actually like a really cool Georgia landmark or whatever. And we had our animals out, and we just took I'm going to show you some of the things we do here. We just took some of our animals out and we set up a tip jar, and then we set up a Venmo thing, and we ended up getting about, I want to say, like maybe $35 in tips or something. But one of the things we do is, this is like our family side hustle, is we have animal interaction with different kinds of animals. So we'll do like geckos and the S word. I'll go through those really fast. We have a tortoise.
I like the tortoise.
Yeah. So we have found a lot of joy in doing this, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's kind of justified our animal habit. But yeah, so my wife and the kids actually will do preschools. They do homeschool events. They do nature walks. We've done birthday parties. We do birthday parties. And so this last weekend, we actually went to this blueberry farm, and they get a lot of families coming in to pick blueberries. And we just had our animals there. We talked to all the people that came and handed out flyers, and a lot of people were very interested in doing more birthday parties. So that's our kind of passion projects turned side hustle. But it got me thinking, with the way that electronic tips work these days, if you've got a good story and you've got a passion and you're halfway decent, there might be things that you can do that you wouldn't even realize that you could do. Maybe going out and playing your guitar and singing and just having a little tip jar and a little Venmo thing. I don't know how that works, but I might get down to trying it this week, just to see what happens.
Yeah, I like, and the thing is, even if you ahead of time can say, I would not be disappointed if I got $0, then you're good.
Yeah.
Because then anything you do get is a true bonus. Whereas if you're really trying to do it to make the money and it doesn't work out, that's a little bit different. But I think that's a great one. I did that a few times as a student in England, and we would a group of us would go and play worship songs out on a Friday night in front of the pub, and they'd still give us tips, and we'd put it towards a mission trip or whatever. Here's one I want to share real quick. This one I stumbled across on Etsy, and this girl, at least at the time, as far as I know, turned this into a full-time job, and it's so smart. It's so smart. So the backstory is this Canadian girl was like somewhat temporarily located to Paris for her job, like a corporate job. So she's living in Paris, but she would go to these French cafes, and French because they're in Paris. And she would write letters, and she would do like little sketches and sometimes even watercolors of whatever she was looking at, because, you know, Paris is just beautiful. Anything you look at, you could just look anywhere and it's going to be picturesque. And she would write these letters to her friends and family, and they loved them. They're like, you know, wow, not only is it a letter from Paris, but a sketch on the side or a little watercolor of, you know, what it looks like where she's sitting on the sidewalk. And they loved it. And so, long story short, she turned this into a side hustle. And I bought a subscription, and this is kind of what it looked like when I got it. And you could buy a package of letters, either all at once, or what I did is I spread them out once a week for 12 weeks. You could even do it once a month for a whole year. But I would get a letter from, now she since went back to Canada, so the stamps were from Canada, but every envelope was a different set of stamps from Canada and my name and address handwritten. And then I would receive a letter, and this is, and I know in advance this is not written to me. I've never met her. This is a very high quality copy, and so this is an example of what it looked like. I'd get a letter in the mail,
Wow.
and she would write "Dear Billy" at the top. Now the rest of this is kind of a generic letter that could be to anybody, and then a full color, you know, copy of the art.
Wow.
So I know it's not to me, but it feels like it's to me, kind of. And
Yeah.
I would look forward every week for 12 weeks. I would look forward to getting the next letter from Janice from Paris, "Dear Billy." And then she would talk to me, you know, like I'm her friend, and telling me where she was and so forth, and the date. And I mean, the letter itself is beautiful with the color art, and you could even frame it if you wanted to, but every one of them was different. Here it is: "Dear Billy, I'm sitting here, blah, blah, blah." And then this is a copy of the art that she made. And so,
Wow.
I mean, I think it was $100 to get 12 of these letters. Now, what's her cost? 12 envelopes mailed from Canada to Atlanta. And each one has like 2 pages with a good high quality color copy. And it was to me, it was worth every penny. I didn't, like, I was so happy, in the people in my life at the time. I would carry them with me, and they'd say, "Did you get another letter from Janice?" I'm like, "Yeah, check it out." And they'd all share it and read it. And I have them still. What a brilliant side hustle. She
Mm.
turned something that she was doing anyways, which is just writing letters and having fun with art, into a full-time business on Etsy. This is brilliant as far
Yeah.
as a side hustle. You're finding a niche that didn't perhaps even exist before, and often stumbling upon it. That's a cool one. My buddy Sean stumbled into his side hustle that's turning into a full-time business, doing 3D printing. Now, this is becoming more and more popular, but here's a couple of examples where he would go to these art festivals, and all of these things are printed on his 3D printer. Uh, and so some of them are little toys and gadgets. A lot of them are these for plants. You have a house
Mm-hmm.
plant that comes in a plain, boring pot. And so you get kind of a sleeve, a decorative sleeve. He'd sell these for $20, $25. It costs him like 50 cents in material. And
Wow.
so he has since transitioned from doing this in person at these festivals to doing it online. And so there's apps where it's almost like QVC. You have a live
Mm-hmm.
app stream, and then people, as you're talking live, can say, "I want it," and then they buy it. And you go to the next one. You're, instead of automated selling on a website that you're not, you know, you don't have to do anything like Amazon or eBay. It's the other extreme. You're selling each item individually. You're saying, "This is the one and only of this color and this size. Who wants it?" And then whoever live buys it right then, you write down their name and address, they pay you electronically, and you mail it to them, and that's it. And so he's now doing that and making money hand over fist. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, just a couple of those examples. I have another friend in Houston who has a poop business. What? Yeah, she goes to your house and she picks up the dog poop.
Oh yeah, not my cup
So
of tea. I won't be doing
yeah,
that one.
yeah, but she makes fantastic money. In Houston, her business is called Scoopsy Daisy. And so Scoopsy Daisy, she goes to your house once a week for, I don't know, 15, $20 and takes 10, 15 minutes and picks up the dog poop and puts it in a bag. She doesn't even take it with her. She puts it in your own garbage bin in your garage and leaves. And that's what she does full time. So there are plenty of these that can even turn into side hustles. I just met last week my friends down in Locust Grove. They started a bakery out of their house, and it is now blowing up. I had some of their sourdough bread; it's fantastic. It's called Rose uh, uh, Rose Creek Sourdough Company. But they're at all these festivals, and they're getting ready to go find a commercial kitchen, but they're making it in their house. So there are
Wow.
these different side hustles, but they take time, they take money, they take effort. What would you do? What would we do if we needed now to make $1,000 a month? Now. What are the ways to do it?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to know what you're good at, and you have to decide, am I willing to put in the time that it takes to make this work?
Mm,
I'll tell you, most of the people that I've run into, YouTube is not a moneymaker. You don't get sponsorship deals that easily. That's not how you make the money. That's just how you get your name out about the money that you make or
yep.
about the thing that's cool about you. Um, and so what I am trying my hand at right now is independent consulting. So
Mm,
I've been in a specific industry for a lot of years. I have a very specific set of skills. Uh, they're
mm,
not exciting, they're not flashy, they're not sexy, but they're useful, and they can generate some increase in revenue to the customer that I would normally work for, or they can at least provide data to a customer that would be valuable to them. If you can take something off of somebody's plate that may take them a few hours to do, or even half a day, or even a couple weeks. If there's something that you know how to do, especially in a professional context, that I think, and again, this is in theory right now, but that is the way to make money. So I have a couple of friends who have done this where they've been in between jobs, or they've been just done with whatever they're doing. They've got some money, they want to take some time off. And what they'll do is they will go in, they will use their industry contacts, and they will go in for a day, 2 days, a week, a weekend, whatever it is, and they will work and they will generate $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to provide a very specific service or a very specific deliverable that can then be used for that benefit. And so that is what I'm going to be trying my hand at actually this week. Is there some consulting that I can do that will allow me to get that kind of result where I can make maybe $500 in a day or $1,000 in a day? Not everybody's going to have that, but it is one thing to
hmm
think about. Be mindful if you're working, or if you have a full-time job, or if you work for a company, there may be some issues there. But a lot of times, so here's a good example, right? I work in one aspect of technology in one area, but I have experience in another area. Maybe it's making phone calls or sales or something like that. And so I could go do that on a Friday night or a Saturday morning and just generate appointments, or try and get appointments for salespeople. And maybe I can get paid for that at a small company, or I can go in and just answer emails or build out a form. Do I know how to
Yeah.
build forms online? So those kinds of things that are part of your profession that you're really good at. So you don't have to put a ton of time into it, but you can see where it might provide value somewhere else. That's, I think, a really good way to try and make big money right now.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I have a quick list of what I would call side hustle myths. Myths where social media doesn't really show these uh, these obstacles, these challenges, these costs when you're looking at starting a side hustle. And then I want to ask kind of a bigger question about monetization in general. But First, for side hustle myths, just a quick list. Things that social media doesn't show: startup costs.
Mm.
A lot of this stuff has some startup costs. Even I didn't get into it, but Upwork.com, I have a profile on there to do some side consulting for some software that I'm familiar with. Even that is $20 a month to apply to projects, um, to put a bid in. Equipment can mean software as well. So, and sometimes you can get it for free, but sometimes not. This podcast, for example, we're paying to use a software that is a podcast editing tool. Uh, I bought a microphone. We, for a while, had a Linktree subscription, a website,
Hmm.
even if nobody uses it yet. So even something that's like a fun thing like that has startup cost, software licenses, taxes. If you start making money, you have to have software to handle your taxes, marketing, even doing something like Facebook Marketplace. If you get into it enough, you'll start to pay to have your listings higher up. That's
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
Facebook Marketplace is free for everybody else. Customer service, it takes time. Rejection cost something. It costs
Yes,
something when you're rejected.
absolutely.
And of
Hmm.
course, time itself. We looked at the voice acting thing. Nothing has come of that. It wasn't unpleasant, but I spent many, many hours
Hmm.
applying for doing 21 auditions and editing them and making a profile, and nothing's come of that. So those are just a few examples that you have to think that it does have a cost: your time, your heart, your emotion, and you don't know until you try, but you have to weigh the cost the best you can. The bigger question is, I think, tying all this together, why do we feel pressure to monetize everything? Can we have a hobby, painting, making candles, doing a podcast, just because we enjoy it? Or does every hobby eventually become, you could sell those? I'm telling you, for every candle I handed out, like every third person would ask me, are you going to start selling these? Are you
I
going to
think I asked you multiple times.
see?
Yeah.
I had people sit me down even after I said, no, I'm not interested in ever doing that. It's just for fun. And they didn't listen. They said, this is what you could do. And they'd start giving me a business plan, being helpful. And I didn't want to. So the bigger question is, and to have a side hustle, that's great. But can I have a hobby that doesn't ever lead to making money and isn't intended to, even if it has the potential to do it? Because when you add that element, like it or not, it changes things. It
Mm.
changes things. Imagine even something like a podcast. If we have sponsors, and we used to have sponsors
I know
the
what happened to
first
our
10 episodes.
sponsors. Well, they all
even
dried
so,
up.
even then, you have to be like, well, I don't want to piss off my sponsor, or I want to be attractive to this sponsor that I'm reaching out to. It could potentially influence what you say or what you don't say. If you
Hmm.
just do it for the love of it, take it or leave it, here it is. It's just for fun. I'm not trying to make any money. And if I'm having fun, then I'm good to go. And as soon as you start prioritizing the momentum of the podcast over the fun of it, it changes everything.
Right. Yeah. And everything is that way. And I do think we're moving into a monetized culture where we're trying to sell everything we can. And maybe it has adjusted the way that we think about hobbies, the way we think about free time. We just don't have the same concept of free time that was around 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah,
There's just pressure maybe it's financial, maybe it's just the world around us trying to get wherever we need to be, but that is definitely happening for sure.
for sure.
And I think there's a mindset that we need to have, like, do we want to guard some things that are just for us and they're just hobbies that we enjoy, that we're not trying to turn into, you know, a
Yeah.
YouTube channel or something? Is there something that, and I think we'll all be a little better for it if we guard at least one thing. You know what I mean?
Yes. I have a buddy of mine, a coworker of mine. He is one of the best artists I've ever seen. And he does these, I mean, he'll spend months on these big, beautiful, amazing pieces of art. And I'm like, bro, you got to sell this. you got to sell this. And he's like, never. He's like, it's for me. It
Mm.
took him years of friendship before he even showed me, before I was even allowed to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And he is so good, but he's like, I don't want to sell it. It's for me. This is my project, my hobby, my therapy. And that's okay too. Wrapping it up, let's do a fun activity.
Okay.
We've done these many times, a rapid fire would you rather. So
Okay.
remember, rapid fire,
Keep
not
it to
going to put a lot.
5 because we're already at an hour. So keep it to 5.
Yep. 5 hours.
No, 5
We're
rapid
going
fire
5 hours.
activities. 5 rapid fire activities.
All right, Joe. Would you rather make $500 a month forever or $20,000 just this month?
I feel like $20,000 once if I didn't have to spend it on living expenses, because I could turn that $20,000 into $500 a month, or maybe even more. I don't know if I
I'm
could or
tempted
not.
to do the same. I'm
Yeah.
tempted. I need the 20 grand right now.
Yeah.
Would you rather have one huge client or 100 small ones?
Ooh, 100 small ones. The attrition
Why?
would hurt less. You lose one huge client, you're broke, poor, and out of business.
That's true. Would you rather build an online business or a local business?
Local. I love being around people. I've learned that over the past several months. I love being out on the road, being out on the street, being with other people.
I like that. Physical products or digital products?
Oh, that's a hard one. I like the profitability of a digital product potentially, right? But I really also really love physical things. I love physical products. I love
Something you
being
can
able
make
to
with
have
your
something to
hands,
sell,
maybe?
something you make with your hands. Yeah.
Yeah. How about I'm not, just tell the truth. Side hustle alone or side hustle with a friend?
Ooh, side hustle with a friend. Let's figure that out.
Not
Let's
necessarily
figure that
me,
out.
but just a friend. Couple more real fast. Guaranteed $30 an hour or unlimited upside, but no guarantee?
I have always been a guarantee person, but I'm moving more to the idea of unlimited upside.
Definitely. Last one. Would you rather spend $500 on equipment or $500 on advertising?
Ooh, I'm going to say equipment because I love equipment, but I know the right answer should be advertising.
So on that note, quick little story. We have a restaurant here called Taco Mac. Taco Mac started way back in the day in Virginia Highlands in Atlanta. And the story goes, the guy bought a restaurant called Taco Mac from the previous owner, and he wanted to turn it into a restaurant that sold chicken wings, not Mexican food and not tacos. And he had a limited budget. And at the end of his budget, he had just enough money to do one of two things. He could either replace and upgrade the stove or the oven or whatever it was in the kitchen, or he could replace the sign above the front door. And so he made the difficult decision. He was going to spend that last couple $1,000s on upgrading a piece of equipment in the kitchen. And so he left the name of the restaurant Taco Mac, even though he had no Mexican food and no tacos on his menu for decades. Taco Mac, to this day in Atlanta, they finally started putting tacos on their menu a few years ago. But for decades,
That's funny. I
no
never
tacos.
Knew that. That's so interesting.
No tacos, just a chicken wing restaurant. So
That's
sometimes
hilarious.
you have to make a difficult decision with that last bit of money.
Yeah, there you go. And it's equipment every time. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight. This has been a great time. Excited to see you next time, next Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Well, maybe not same bat time. But thanks so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. You can reach out to us at connect@opentabspc.com or just comment or like, subscribe, do all those fun things on the video. And we will see you next time.
So long, everybody.